So, welcome to another episode of Menable Matters with me, Steve Whitton. Now, all of our guests that come onto this podcast have a story to tell, and they have some fantastic insights and thoughts. And my guest today is somebody that I've been having many conversations with through Zoom meetings and phone calls, and we wax lyrical about everything to do with mental health and just can talk for England about the subject. So it's my absolute pleasure to introduce somebody who works for one of our platinum members, Marshall Motor Group. Welcome to Menable Matters, Liam Harkin. Liam, how are you, sir?
Hello, very well, thank you. How
Good.
you doing?
Now, I should just say, it's not just Liam, is it? We have a guest, special guest.
We've got Otis. Just as we were about to start, he started clawing at my legs. So this is my trusted colleague.
Okay, so because you did say you were worried that you looked a bit like a Bond villain sitting there. That's brilliant. All right. Well, obviously, if you're watching this on video, you can see Otis, and he's sitting there ever so well behaved. If you're on audio, then you have to just take our word for it that Liam is actually sitting there stroking Otis. And Otis is what? He's a Chihuahua, is he?
Chihuahua. Yeah.
Is he? Oh, bless him. He looks cute. He's happy now that he's sat there with his daddy. Look.
Yes.
Bless him.
In his element.
So, Liam, in good old Menable Matters fashion, tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what you do. And our subject today is going to be about coping strategies. So we'll come on to that. But let us know who you are first.
Okay. So I work for Marshall Motor Group in the Human Resources Department. I manage some of the HR programs within the business. Formerly, I was a HR business partner for Marshall and for other companies prior to that. I've got quite a wealthy experience in the HR field. And of course, mental health, something's always been something very important to me personally, either from my own experiences, from experiences of loved ones and family members, and of course, just by nature of the job that I do and the people that I meet in businesses over the years and where they've had their mental health struggles. So, it's kind of paramount really to me.
Now, in the conversations that you and I have had, I know that you're a relative newcomer to the motor industry, aren't you? I know you've done a few years with Marshalls, but before that you were with a big supermarket chain.
Yes. Yeah. So I've been in the motor industry I've been with Marshall for 5 years in April. And I did a year with another motor group prior to that. And then before that, it was supermarkets and high street retail. So always retail. Just different industries.
So what would you say were your first observations of the difference between high street retail and coming into the automotive industry?
I think it was eye-opening.
Right.
I think I think it did feel very, very different. I was a HR business partner out in supermarket land, and the role was very, very different in the motor industry. Some of the challenges were different.
Mm-hmm.
I think the motor industry, the businesses are fascinating. But yeah, I think the certainly the workload as HR business partner was very, very different. The types of things that we were doing were very, very different. Marshall are very progressive, and actually the things that are happening, there's certainly the work that I'm involved in now. It's exciting because it is all change. And I think I don't know what I'd say the main difference would be. I hear the word banter a lot in this industry, and I've never heard that in places that I'd worked before.
Right.
So that was certainly something that seemed to stick out as a HR business partner, is the term banter. And then obviously the impacts of that when it's happening.
On individuals and stuff. No, I get that. Now, obviously, I know that you are, like me, sort of, hypersensitive to the whole area of mental health, well-being, inclusion, diversity, the list goes on. And you and I talk a lot about that. So, again, I say relative newcomer. I mean, you've got a good few years under your belt now, really, haven't you? But
I don't feel like a newcomer anymore.
No, I bet you don't. No, but so what do you think are, on the face of it, the biggest challenges that we have across the sector then And I know we're going to talk about coping mechanisms, and I think that's kind of why the question is a bit loaded, really, in as much as what are the things that you see in automotive businesses that perhaps either don't help with people's mental health or actually contribute towards poor mental health.
I hate to use this one as a bit of an example because I really don't want to talk about this topic too much. One of the biggest shifts and differences I noticed was in 2020 with the impact of COVID,
right?
Because that's when people seem to become a lot more open about their challenges with their mental health. I think prior to that, obviously there might be cases that we're dealing with and you'd pick up on people's mental health. But I think since the pandemic, it's unavoidable. You know, people are talking about it, have been talking about it. In 2020, almost felt a little bit like an outpouring.
Right.
And that was, it felt unusual because people can be quite guarded around their mental health and their mental health struggles. You might suspect that people are having problems with their mental health, but it's not something that they share or disclose. And you can only deal with what you know. And I think the shift really was that when the pandemic started, and it's like someone had just turned a tap on. And it really did impact people for many different reasons, whether that was, you know, financial concerns, whether that was, you know, being at home and being out of the routine of being in work because they're on furlough. There was a lot of people that struggled, I think, because, you know, they weren't in the business and they were spending time at home and didn't know what to do with that time. And you know, I imagine it's, you know, very demotivational when all of a sudden you get that shift. I mean, for us, we continued working. So if anything, it was busier for us. And that, again, can have its own challenges from a mental health perspective. But I know that people that, particularly that were out of the business, were struggling. And you know, our industry, it's so fast paced. You know, it can be incredibly demanding. So to switch all of a sudden and not be here and be at home for months has got to really, really impact people's mental health.
And indeed, big chunks of our industry are very social oriented, aren't they? You know, it's about interaction in teams or being a part of a group or whatever. And to suddenly have that taken away,
definitely
will have had an impact on people. No, absolutely.
And I think that's what it was. I think people are just talking about mental health a little bit more as a result of that. So, I mean, that can only be a good thing. There's some great support and resources in the industry anyway, for people that have got challenges with their mental health, amongst other challenges.
Well, Menable, of course.
Menable, absolutely. So I think there was... I think it just felt very, very strange because people tend to be quite guarded about their mental health or talking about their mental health, maybe even trying to ignore the fact that there's a problem. Other people might see it and pick up on it, but they might not necessarily recognise it themselves. Yet there was this moment in 2020 where that seemed to change. As a result, as a business, I think the business Marshall reacted really well to the concerns that were coming through about people's mental health. Our executive directors were really leading the way in terms of conversations around mental health and trying to, I guess, say it's okay. You know, it's. I think that was very well received. Our HR director did a fantastic job, as did our operations director. Of course, Dash, he was keeping the business and the people in the business updated on the regular. I mean, there was a point where we was getting daily videos out with updates of what was going on, and that was just to kind of keep people informed and grounded and supported during that time when, you know, none of us, let's face it, none of us knew what was happening, particularly in that first lockdown. It was alien to everybody. So I think they did a great job of navigating through that.
Yeah, no, indeed. And it's, it's been a very tough time. Now, when you and I have spoken, and we've spoken a lot over the last sort of year or so, I suppose, we've both been very open about our own mental health sort of issues and challenges throughout our life. And obviously to lead up to sort of the piece about coping strategies, give us some insights as much as you're comfortable with in terms of what have been the mental health issues for you.
I've struggled with my mental health on and off over the years. And I think my biggest issue is burnout.
Right.
Because I do like my cup to overflow. That's for sure. That's my it's kind of that borderline comfort uncomfort zone for me. And sometimes I can lose control of that and get and get to a point where I burn out. I'm not a hugely stressful person. I'm quite chilled out and relaxed. But what I do is stop taking care of myself and stop looking after myself. And as a result of that, that can lead to some relatively dark places. And that really is just about that burnout. So I think coping strategies for me, I mean, it's little tiny things that I just do routinely within my day-to-day life that just give me an opportunity to achieve something maybe on days where I don't feel like I can, or just to kind of keep touch with myself on how am I doing and to be able to actually ask myself that question. Yeah, I think for me, it's probably more burnout. I do commit myself to an awful lot.
Now, so we're going to get talking about these coping strategies, and I think they're fairly. And I'm guessing that Otis, bless him, he's sitting there. I'm guessing he's one of them.
He is a coping strategy. Well, I've got two coping strategies.
I know you've got two.
Got Arthur, but he's on patrol downstairs at the moment.
But before that, you said something just now about on days where you don't feel great or you don't feel that you've been looking. So can you sense that coming on? Can you sense that, is it from, and it is a loaded question again, because I'm very aware of this myself. I can wake up in the morning and think, oh, I'm on it today, and I'm up with a spring in my step. And then the following day I could be like, oh, I really could quite happily sit in bed till midday.
Yeah. Yeah. I think most of the time I can feel it coming on. I think the difference between where I am now in life compared to where I've been previously is I don't ignore it.
Right.
Whereas I think you always can feel that something's not quite right. And I think what I had a tendency to do, previously in previous years, is ignore how I was feeling. And for me, it usually comes in the form of tiredness. That because it's the burnout thing. So I'll be doing too much. But there are things now that tiredness bit where that hits. It's one of the latter stages, and there are things before that actually I maybe ignored or didn't recognise as sign pointing to there. And I think it's once you kind of keep going through this cycle that you start to notice more and more about the components of it and the bits that you should listen to. So I might get forgetful. I might start missing things. I might start being late and those sorts of things. I might just ignore or put down to something else, but actually it's usually a signal that I'm not quite right and I need to give myself a little bit of attention.
So what are your coping strategies then? If you can feel this coming on and or you get to a point where it's hit you, what do you then do? I mean, because there is a lot of, I've seen stuff where people say, oh, go for a walk, do a sport, go to the gym, go and sit by the river, or, go and sit in the park and count the clouds. And I'm like, well, I get all of that, but that's not for everyone. So what do you do?
No, it's not. And I don't do any of those things. I always think I'm just going to go for a nice long walk on my own. It doesn't matter.
Look at some nature or whatever. Yeah. And then it starts raining. You think, nah.
That's it. I just think, it's a bit cold today. Or, can't find my big coat. So no, I don't do any of those things. One of the things that I do, and I've done this since I was 8 years old, is I've been part of a amateur theatre company, and that is a big outlet for me.
Oh no, it isn't.
Oh, yes, it is. Very good. Very
Oh
good.
dear, oh dear.
Oh, dear. Um,
We can edit that bit out if you want.
Probably the best bit so far. Yeah, so I do that. So that's something that I have done since I was 8 years old. I've been part of the same theatre company. I do like to perform. I'm a bit of an introvert, really, but that gives me an opportunity to be the extrovert.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, I am more introverted, but then I can go away and do something like that, and it is something that's always out of your comfort zone when you go on stage for any reason. But it does. It massively helps. We have a rehearsal every Friday evening, and I think just having the routine of doing that, and let me tell you now, every Friday comes along, and then as it starts to get to about 4 or 5 o'clock, I think, oh, I don't really feel like it tonight. But then you just have to push yourself, because at the end of the week, you've had a long week, and you have to push yourself and go to it. But actually, when I do go there, it's just a couple of hours singing, dancing, acting, whatever it is that we're doing, in a really safe environment with people that are all there for exactly the same reason. And just the rehearsal process in itself, put the performing on stage bit aside, it's really, really good for your mental health, because it's that escapism. And there's some comfort, I think, in turning up somewhere and pretending to be somebody else for a couple of hours. There's something in that, I think, that helps with your mental health and kind of put aside your issues. And I always come out feeling better, regardless of however I went into it. I could be sliding in on my knees with me face planted in the floor, but I'll come out walking tall, and it does that. It's just that type of hobby. And I know that's not for everybody, but that is something that really helps me. And
So what is it you think that's happening that's causing you at the beginning of, because I totally resonated with that when you said about, there might be times you think, oh, I really can't be bothered, or it's getting near 4 o'clock on a Friday. Do I have to do this? And then you go and you feel better, and you know that you're going to feel better. But what is it that's going on, do you think, in that bit, between 3 and 4, where you're sitting there thinking, oh, for 2 pins, I literally could just not go?
I think a lot of the time for me, that is usually a reflection of the day or the week that I've had.
Right.
And, Friday, doing it on a Friday evening, Friday evening for a lot of people is the start of their weekend. I'm Monday to Friday, so it's the start of my weekend. And sometimes what you want to just do is pour yourself a drink and sit and watch something and not really move that much.
That's another coping mechanism if it's in moderation.
Yeah, it completely is. But I mean, alcohol for me is not so much now, but it was like a full stop at the end of my day. Right. And so it was a complete coping mechanism for the wrong reasons. But I think with this, it energizes you. It just injects some life back into me. And one of the things that I really noticed is, obviously, when we was going through the heights of the pandemic, we didn't perform for 2 years. There was no rehearsals because we couldn't get together and rehearse. And I noticed the absence of that Friday night rehearsal. And actually, I think the pandemic would have been easier. I could have been more consistent throughout it had I have continued to have had that rehearsal.
Right.
And there's a number of things I think you can do for yourself. I think it's always important to do something for yourself every day. I love to cook. I really love cooking. I love experimenting with food. I love the process of cooking. Don't like doing the shopping bit. That's something that I struggle with if I'm not feeling great, because I don't want to go into a supermarket. I don't want to try and do it online. I can't work out what I need to buy. So that can be a bit of a muddle if I'm not feeling great. But actually cooking is a huge, huge release. I like to present my food up nicely. I'm constantly taking photos of my food. Yeah, honestly, it'll get to the point
for the Insta.
It'll get to the point of my funeral, and at my wake they'll have a projection up. Instead of all photos of me, it's going to be things that I ate. I do put a lot of attention into my food, as if I was cooking it for somebody else. I'd do exactly the same for me. But that's what I just choose to do for myself. For other people, they've got a whole manner of ways of doing that. But I think it's important to do something for you. Sleep is obviously something that is really important, and certainly for me, because of the burnout. So it's important for me that I do have a relatively good routine with sleep. And if I have got something on my mind, if I'm not feeling particularly well, sleep is usually the thing that gets disrupted the most.
Yeah.
And actually, it's the thing that benefits me the most.
Isn't it fascinating how actually, it's just, I mean, I knew this, but it's almost like it's just dawned on me in a way that all of those things you've just mentioned are inextricably linked. The getting out, doing some activity, the variation in your day, the what you eat, and sleep and drinking too much, or, put all of those things together. And you probably know yourself, if you have an evening where you think, oh, I can't be bothered to go for a walk tonight, and then you sit down and have a couple of glasses of wine and this massive great pizza, that funnily enough, you're not going to sleep well that night, are you, for one reason or another? And then the following day you think, oh, why do I feel so rubbish?
Yeah. And the problem with alcohol as well is it just exacerbates the mood that you're in. So if you aren't in a great place, the alcohol is just going to take you further into that. And that's not that I don't drink, because I do. But it doesn't. It's not great for your mood.
No.
If you're in a party mood and you feel great, it'll make you feel even better. If you're not in a great place, it's just going to take you down further, and that's just the nature of it, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I've always been the nominated driver, and so as a result, what?
Designated driver.
Des, right? Yeah. And I've it's always been just something that I've never got in the habit of drinking. So now for me, 2 glasses of wine and I can start to feel my head getting a bit lighter, and I think, no, I need to stop and drink. And that's even if I'm not driving. I never go beyond that. So
yeah, gin. See, I do like my wine, but gin is my tipple. And I did have to have a word with myself to see if I got a bit of a problem the other week, because I was getting some ice out from my gin. Sometimes that can be a bit compacted in the bag, just the bags of ice. And so I slammed it down on the kitchen floor to get my ice, and then realised that my dogs didn't flinch. And I thought,
oh, here he goes again.
Oh God, they know what it is. It's like routine would be a routine.
They just look at each other and roll their eyes.
Yeah, just became really self-aware that there was no reaction from them. But yeah, I think it's just one of those things. You have to do it in moderation, don't you?
I spoke to somebody the other day who said they've got a bit of a, I'm not sure fetish is the right word, but they've got a bit of a thing about drinking Baileys. I thought, oh.
Yeah, one of those at Christmas. And
one at Christmas is like, then put the bottle on the top of the fridge and leave it there for a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's just horrible.
The dust.
Yeah. So give us a rundown then, Liam, of what your sort of go-to coping strategies are. Almost feel I need to play the top of the Pops tune in there. And at 10.
Better feel that excited. So first and foremost, the one thing that I do, and this is kind of, I've been in some dark places, and then it's kind of coming out of it that I started doing this, but it's a really good way of knowing where I'm at. And that's making my bed. It sounds really stupid, really. Right. I mean, most people should get up and make their bed, but I know when I was in a really bad place some years ago, I didn't used to make my bed, wasn't changing my bed. I had pots in my bed. There's things everywhere in the bed.
Hang on, could we just clarify that? When you said you had pots in your bed?
Like plates and cups and knives and forks.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay.
Like
right.
cutlery and crockery.
Yeah. I'm glad I clarified that. I know what you meant, but I just in case someone didn't hear it.
Yeah, sorry. Derbyshire accent. So just because I was in a dark place and was living out of my bed, right. that was where I was at, and everything was just kind of accumulating around me, and everything was becoming a bigger job, and once I got out of that and just got back into a routine of feeling all right and making my bed, I actually use that. That's one of the things that can signal me to ask myself a question of how I'm doing, because it doesn't actually take long to make the bed. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't take long. So it's the first thing I do when I get up in the morning. And I had a bit of a rough time Tuesday and Wednesday last week. I just got something that was going on that was really occupying my headspace. And on the Tuesday, I'd gone into the bedroom later on in the afternoon and then realised I hadn't made my bed. So straight away, it prompted me to check in with myself. And of course, then I made it. But then on the Wednesday, I did exactly the same. And then I made it. And then by Thursday, I was fine. And you know, the bed was made and it's continued to be. But it was just something as simple as that, because it is routine. It's habit, isn't it? That's what it is. You need to form a habit. And so as soon as you break that, there's an opportunity there for you to see it and ask yourself the question, just check in with yourself and see how
Yeah.
you feel.
I was going to ask you about routines earlier, actually, as well, when something else that you said. But yeah, so making your bed is your sort of start of the day strategy.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on a loop. Everything that I do is some form of routine, or the coping strategies that I have are to keep me in that routine.
Yeah.
Because I think that's really important. I think it's just for me. I think it's really important for my mental health.
And what about then during the day then? So what's your next, what would be the next thing on your list? Because I know you work a lot from home, don't you? So you're on your own quite a bit.
Yeah, well, list actually is it. So every day I have a list. So I write my list for the next day. So I always write it the day before, what it is that I'm going to do the next day. So as soon as I'm up, I already have a list of things that I need to do.
And for those that are watching this on the video, they'll be able to see behind you your nice little array of coloured Post-it notes, which I have to say I've copied.
Good.
I've copied, and behind my wall in my office is it's actually worse than that. It's smothered.
Yeah, I find it an effective way of working. What you can't see is behind the camera, where I have it all here as well. So this is all work related stuff behind me, but in front of me is all my personal related stuff.
Right.
Because I do it in exactly the same way, and that just breaks down everything into task for me. That's effectively what it is. So it just helps me stay motivated and focused on what I need to do. And if I'm having a day where I am struggling, I mean, last Tuesday I did struggle and kind of sat at my desk and thought, I don't even know what I need to do. I kind of just lost my train of thought. Something distracted me to that point. I spun my chair around, had a look, grabbed a Post-it note and thought, right,
crack on with that. Yeah, good idea.
And so it takes the thinking out of it. All of this gets done when I'm on really great form. And so if there's ever a day where I'm not feeling so great, I've already kind of done the legwork. I've just got to pick something and that's a lot easier to do. It takes the thinking out.
You're absolutely right, because actually it takes the thinking out of it. It's a good way of putting it, because I've tended to suffer from, and I know a lot of people suffer from, overwhelm. Because I think in the absence of what you've got there, whether it's a list or Post-it notes or a picture or whatever it is, all you've got is all the stuff that's going on in your head. And it can be overwhelming because it just goes round and round in a continuous loop, and it becomes noise.
Yeah. So it just helps you to extract it. And all of this stuff that's here, all of the planning, all of that is done when, I've done it when I'm in, really sharp mind, really good form, lots of energy, great mood. And so all of that planning takes place during my best, my best hours.
When you're in the zone.
And I do everything I can to try and stay in that place. But, there are times where that slips, things will happen, something will distract you, someone might be ill, or someone, something's happened, or might have been a disagreement or something. And you kind of just start to get tunnel vision, don't you? And you just go into that place. And all that I do around me, making the bed, all of that sort of stuff, it's to bring me back out of it, or maybe check in with myself and move on from it. So it just helps me process things and stay on track.
So your third coping strategy then, what would that be?
One of the things that I do is I don't take compliments, and I don't take criticism. And I mean, I will around my work and things like that. Of course I will. But I mean, just about me personally. So I think over the years, I've tried to develop a bit of a layer of Teflon around myself. So I won't take compliments. I won't take criticism about me.
That's interesting. Tell me a bit more about that then. So what?
It's really damaging. I think it can be really, really damaging. I think from compliment point of view, I've always found it uncomfortable with compliments anyway. But I think that can give people a bit of an inflated sense of ego, really, around the compliments. When people give compliments, I'll usually find a way to kind of break it down or take it back, or I'll just go, "Oh, you're really kind, thank you," or something like that. But it makes me really uncomfortable. But it's the same with criticism, because criticism, compliments is all very subjective. Certainly wouldn't take them off of strangers. And I think that's just something that I've just done more and more over the years. I'll take it over my work if my work's not good, if something's not right, or if my work's great. Of course, I want to know that, because I want to know that what I'm doing and what I'm producing is of the right quality, or it's appropriate. But about me personally, it just makes me feel incredibly uncomfortable.
Mm.
And I try to operate more on, and I think this is because of my mental health, but I try to operate more on how I feel. That's what's most important to me. So if I wake up and I feel good today, then I feel good today. If I wake up and I feel bad today, I feel bad today. And then, I can try and do something about it. And in the same way, I don't have any mirrors in the house. With the exception, I've got a tiny little shaving mirror that I'll use occasionally. I mean, I've always got a beard, but I've got that. But other than that, I don't have any mirrors in the house. I don't actually ever know how I look or how an outfit looks and things like that, or because I'm not really bothered. I think it can be. I think when you struggle with your mental health, sometimes it's really difficult to look in a mirror. And I think for me, as I say, I want to operate on how I feel, not how I look. And so it's happened so many times, and it'll happen maybe if I go out somewhere and then I nip to the loo and there's mirrors in the bathroom or at somebody else's house, and I might catch a look of myself, and then it can really unbalance how I feel. And I felt all right up until I caught a glimpse of myself. So I don't have mirrors in the house because I have really problem with my skin. So it can get quite red and inflamed on my face. And sometimes it hurts. So it's painful until I feel bad because of that. Sometimes it might be red, but it doesn't bother me. I can't feel it. I haven't looked in a mirror, so it doesn't bother me. I don't know whether my skin looks really clear today or not, or, I wouldn't necessarily know. But then you can catch a glimpse in the mirror and you might have been feeling all right, and then see it and then think, oh, look at the state of that. And so that can break you down. And I think with compliments and criticism, I get the same feeling from them. People can compliment you, but then I might start overthinking it. Well, why would they say that? Are they being genuine? That. So I just choose not to take them in.
Yeah,
and I just think that's a safer place for me to be.
I think that's an absolutely fabulous tip, and it's bizarre. It's not something I'd thought about before, and I've done some work recently on what I would call getting centered and being a lot more, because noticing that my emotions can be a bit like a swing. They're literally over here 1 minute and over there the next. And your perspective on life is different depending on where you are on that swing, really.
Yeah.
And the only time you get a bigger perspective and see things much clearer is when you're centered. Yeah. And you can't, and I agree with you. I think you can't be centered if you've got feedback and compliments coming at you left, right, and center equally, if you're constantly being criticized.
Yeah.
And quite often both of those can actually say more about the other person. So I think if you're centered and that's your mechanism is, I don't need either of those, then
it's 100%. And it wouldn't work if you decided to do one and not the other. So if you say, I'm not going to listen to any criticism, but bring on the compliments, it doesn't work like that. You have to just decide that somebody's personal view and feedback of you is their personal view and feedback. It doesn't, the criticism, compliments, they have the ability to be able to shape a person, and not necessarily for the better. You can't be everything to everyone. Only you can be you, so just be you. And I'll go off how I feel, and that's how I'll operate. And I hope that people like that and respond well to that. But if they don't, then they don't. And again, like I say with the mirrors, that's just a personal thing. And for me, I just don't feel comfortable around them. I don't like that a glance in a mirror, sometimes even a reflection, sometimes in a shop or something like that, when you're walking down the street, or can all of a sudden make you feel really self-conscious. And I don't like that it can alter my mood and my well-being like that. I never look in a mirror and go, "Oh, check you out. That never happens. I never get that. So, it's always the reverse of that. So I'd just rather not have them around and just go by how I feel. If I feel good today, I feel good today, regardless of how I look. I feel great, and that's what matters, right?
So how does that sit with some of the theatrical stuff that you've done? Because clearly, I'm guessing that you would have got some amazing feedback and compliments. And
I don't take them.
Well, what about the other end? If somebody
don't take them,
we don't. Right? Okay.
I do it because of how it makes me feel. That's what's
good.
important. It's how I feel.
That's good.
And I think with your mental health, I think how you feel is surely that's got to be the most important thing. Not how other people feel. That's not going to improve your mental health.
Has that been a journey to get you there, Liam? Because I'm guessing that this isn't something that you sort of emerged one day and went, "That's who I am now." It's been a journey of discovery.
It is a journey. Like I said, I'm on a bit of a cycle. I do everything by routine, and I've gone in and out of places as a result of that. And I think I'm a massive overthinker. I do that. I have to analyze everything and process everything and understand everything, or at least try to. And I think just over time you start to develop that. I've always struggled with compliments. I've always struggled accepting compliments from people. Even as a kid, I didn't like them. I didn't really appreciate them, but I would take criticism. How is that right? So not taking the good stuff, but only listening to the bad stuff. And then as I've got older, I think you just develop a bit of a, I don't know how to say it without saying it.
Like a shield?
Yeah, defense. Yeah, I was going to swear.
Right, okay. You're perfectly able to. This is fine. We don't mind that. We've had nothing shocks us on this podcast.
You just get to a point where you start thinking F it, don't you?
I see. Right, yeah.
And
put it in a certain bucket that rhymes, and it has the same
exactly that. Yeah, rhymes with bucket.
Rhymes with bucket.
And I think you do. I think you start to know yourself a little bit better.
Yeah.
How you operate a little bit better. I think you have to be a little bit more comfortable in yourself to start a lot of these things that I'm doing. It wouldn't have happened when I was in some of the darker places. I needed it then, really, but it didn't exist. I think with your mental health, it's something that there is support out there, but actually only you can get you back, and only you know you.
Yeah.
Everybody else knows a version of you.
Yeah.
They don't know you fully, and so you have to do it for you. And that's why I have these little rituals and these little things that I do, and they don't take over my life. They're just part of it. They're habits. I think the other thing, I don't know if this is another coping strategy. Does it need to be announced with a number or?
No, you're okay. Just crack on. I'm listening. I'm writing them all down here. That's fine. We're good.
I don't know what number we're
on about number 5 now, but it's fine. Out of 3.
The other thing, sort of on the back of that, really is just gratitude, really. Which I always think, some people might just sound a little bit airy-fairy, but I think it's important to be grateful for what you have got. I have been in situations, and in more recent years, where I haven't got a home. Still working, still doing all of that, and got the dogs, but I had a lot. Whilst I was in that place, and it was really difficult, and I could have very easily gone into a very dark place for a long period of time during all of that. I had to be grateful for the fact that I'd got a good job. I was working for a great company. I'd got my great chihuahuas. I've got great family and friends. Exceptional. I've got my eyes, I've got my ears, I can communicate, I can talk. I've got all my digits, I've got my arms, I've got my legs, and I think sometimes you've got to put a little bit of perspective onto things and go, actually, do you know what, there still is a lot going for me.
Yeah.
Because there's, people out there that don't have all of that and can't claim all of that. So I think gratitude is, and obviously now things have changed. I've got my house and all of this sort of stuff. And I've got so much to be grateful for. And I think it's just important to recognise what we do have, even when we feel like we have nothing.
Wow, Liam, that's amazing. I'm being careful what I say now, so I don't give you a compliment.
Yeah, don't do that. You can give it, but
You won't know exactly. We'll be wasted.
I won't remember it.
Right. Well, look, I've written down that we've got 5 coping strategies, which I absolutely love, and none of them involve walking around a park and counting the clouds or talking to the birds. Which is perfectly. If you want to do that, that works for me. Actually, I love a bit of sort of walking around a nice big open space. But anyway, so make the bed in the morning, obviously. Yeah. I was going to say middle of the night. We didn't make the bed in the middle of the night. There's something else going on.
Depends what time you get up, I
guess. Yeah, have a list. Work to a list. Don't take compliments or criticism. And I do you know what? I'm going to take that one on board, because I think that's been something that I've sort of been too keen to seek, if you like. No mirrors in the house, and that's I haven't got any mirrors in mine either, funnily enough, bizarrely. And I really get that.
I have a friend that thinks I'm a vampire, so they actually think that's the reason why there's no mirrors in the house, because
there's no reflection. Yeah, but the question is, if that's the case, how comes you've got such a straight parting?
Ever? I'm just a pro, just years. I mean, get the comb.
That's an old joke, If Dracula has got no reflection, how come he's got such a straight parting?
Straight parting. Okay. Yeah.
Stupid joke. Anyway, no mirrors. And the final thing was about having gratitude, and I love that, because we often talk about that at quite some length, and it's you're conscious that doesn't necessarily land with everyone. Yeah. So Liam, thank you very much for sharing that. It's been brilliant.
I think the main thing is, and what I've learned, it's really difficult. You do have those days and those times in your life, and hopefully for most people it's a small amount of time that you do have it where you feel like you can't do anything, you can't get up, you can't do what you need to do. And what I've learned is that 1% is better than 0%.
Yeah.
So if you don't feel like you can, like cleaning and stuff like that, that can be one of the first things to go. Pot starting to, gather and stuff. Just wash one part. Better than washing no parts. Do you know what I mean? Just do something. And actually you start to find that once you get into a bit of a rhythm routine, you get your spark back. Certainly that's how I feel. So
yeah. No, I totally get that. Liam, I sense there may well be a Liam Harkin part 2.
We'll do
and
3 then
and 4. And do another 5, yeah.
I could keep going, there's loads.
No, I'm sure. And there was a couple of other areas that you and I have talked about at length that we are going to pick up on as well. So, but for now, have you enjoyed being on Menable Moments?
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's been great. So, I mean, we always have good conversation anyway. So, yeah. But
good.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Excellent.
We always say we should have recorded that. So.
Yeah, I know that. Well, that's the thing. Yeah, that yeah, pretty much. That's what we should do. Is just press record the minute we start talking, and that's where the magic happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Indeed. So, Liam Harkin from Marshall Motor Group, thank you so much for joining us here on Menable Matters. Actually, I said Menable Moments a few moments ago, but there's actually Menable Matters. It's a different series. Yeah. Join us again when we will have another fantastic guest. Thank you very much. Take care.
Cheers. Thank you very much. Thank you.
See you later. Bye.